Here's our exercise. Notice I've given you a little bit of information from the previous video, but I bet you can figure out the rest. So I want you to answer these questions. I only have 4 of them here, and I'm going to ask you what state do these sequences end with, and the state is going to be either Q0 through Q3. Notice I didn't tell you what the start state is going to be, but I bet you will figure out when you look at the overall states, and we'll go from there. So tell me what the states are, and then we'll leave it at that. So welcome to a finite automata. Notice I didn't see DFA, which is a deterministic finite automata. Why am I saying that? Is because if I study the graph actually really carefully, there's one spot, and this is really coming from state 2 here, that I actually have 2 options for a 0. So that really means that there's nothing wrong with the graph. Maybe the overall theory of why we have it might be off, but that means that we're going to have to do really a lot more work behind the scenes to really kind of make sure which state do we end up in, because we actually have 2 options. With a deterministic, we'd only be given 1 option. So I'm going to put this one over my hand here and have it disappear, where now Q2 only has 2 options of 0 would go this way, has to go that way, and then 1 would go the other way. So this is why this makes this a finite automata, not a deterministic finite automata. So what we're going to do next is you're going to have those 4 values underneath. We're going to check what state they end up at and then go from there. So my face is going to get buried in this, so bear with me here. So just follow my hands here. On the first one, we have 3 zeros. Now, which state do we start off with? You should know this. It's going to be the lowest state, and that's going to be Q0. So I'm going to do a 0, and then I'm going to do another 0 back to Q3, and then 1 more 0. So in reality, this is going to end up at Q3 or state 3, either one you want to call it, either one. Really, the next one's going to be the same thing, to be honest. You start off at Q0, go to 0, and then do another 0. It ends up at Q3 as well. So that's another state 3. The next one's different, thankfully. So I'm going to do a 0 starting from Q0. I'm going to do a 0 to go to Q3. Then I have a 1. That takes me back to Q0. Then I have another 1. Oh, that takes me to Q1. I have a 0, which takes me to Q2. I have a 1 that takes me to Q3, and then a 0. Go figure. I'm not doing this on purpose, by the way, but this is another state 3 or Q3. The last one. Starting from the original state, I'm going to 0 to Q3, and I'm going to do a 1, which takes me back to Q0, another 1, which takes me to Q1, and then a 0, which takes me to Q, something different. That one's going to be Q and 2. So that's how we would mark those and figure out what the inputs would be to end up at which states we have for a DFA.